What you're about to hear here isn't theory. It's a coded warning that echoes throughout Scripture. Yeshua said, "Destroy this temple, and in 3 days I will raise it up." John 2:19. For many, it was just a metaphor, but what he spoke wasn't philosophy. It was a password, a prophetic code connecting ancient Jerusalem, the fall of empires, and the ultimate destiny of humanity. And the shock begins here. The temple that men destroyed wasn't just a building. It was a warning from heaven. Imagine the scene: the sun blazing over Jerusalem, priests guarding the altar, and on the horizon, the shadow of the Roman Empire approaching like a storm. Herod's temple, the pride of Israel, seemed unshakable. But Yeshua looked at those giant stones and said, "Not one stone will be left upon another," Matthew 24:2. And it wasn't. In the year 70, Rome burned and leveled everything. What seemed eternal fell in a single siege. This wasn't just a historical tragedy. It was the first unlocking of the Third Temple Code. For centuries, sages have wondered, if the temple fell, where would the next one be? Ezekiel in chapters 40 to 48 described a future temple with dimensions impossible for any human architect. Gates that don't fit on the earthly map. A river that flows from the Holy of Holies to the Dead Sea, bringing life where there was only salt. This is no human project. It is a vision that defies Earth's engineering. The most disturbing detail: this temple doesn't rely on stone or gold. It relies on the open sky. And here's the point no one wants to hear. Yeshua has already decoded it. When he spoke of rebuilding the temple in 3 days, he wasn't referring to stones or pillars. He was talking about himself. The Messiah's body is the true temple, the place where heaven and earth meet. The destruction of 70 AD was not the end, but the activation of a new phase. The Third Temple doesn't begin with bricks in Jerusalem. It already began with the resurrection. If the temple is already alive, where is it now? They called it impossible. Ezekiel, exiled in Babylon, wrote a vision that was not just a building plan, but a prophecy encoded in measurements, walls, and gates. Chapter after chapter, he described a temple so vast, so perfect, that it could never fit within the confines of Jerusalem's hills. Was it architecture, or a message from heaven disguised as stone? The prophet was on foreign soil, but his eyes saw the future of Zion. Each gate symbolized a tribe, each cubit whispered of an order beyond chaos. Ezekiel wasn't handing blueprints to masons, he was transmitting a code for generations, a map that points not to stone, but to something eternal. The question is, why would God reveal such precision if it was never meant to be built by human hands? Today, archaeologists and rabbis debate, where is this temple? But look closely. Ezekiel's numbers correspond to patterns in Revelation, and the imagery echoes John's vision of the New Jerusalem. Two witnesses, centuries apart, point to the same reality, a structure not of dust and mortar, but of light and spirit. A temple that descends, not that rises. And here's the caveat. If Ezekiel's temple was never earthly, then any attempt to force it into reality on earth may be doomed to failure. What if the Third Temple is already waiting, not on Mount Moriah, but above the clouds? What if it has already begun to descend? In the next code, Yeshua's phrase that broke the silence and shook the priests. When Yeshua said, "In 3 days I will raise him up," John 2:19, the religious leaders thought he was talking about stones and pillars. But no. The code was hidden in time, 3 days, an eternal sign of death and life, fall and ascension. From Jonah in the belly of the fish to Hosea announcing, "After 2 days he will revive us. On the 3rd day he will raise us up, and we will live before him." Hosea 6:2. The 3rd day is more than chronology. It is the seal of victory. The resurrection was not just a miracle, it was the greatest spiritual earthquake in history. The human temple fell, but a living temple arose, not made by human hands, but by the breath of the Spirit. Every stone of the Temple of Jerusalem would fall, but the resurrected body of Yeshua became the eternal temple, indestructible, inviolable. The code was revealed in the emptiness of the tomb, and this code also speaks of the future. Because the third day did not end in Jerusalem, it points to the final resurrection, the moment when all who belong to the Messiah will rise with him. The third temple is not only the body of Yeshua, but the collective body of the redeemed, a temple of flesh and spirit, awaiting the sound of the last trumpet. And today, more than 2,000 years later, the code continues to echo. Because every war, every crisis, every fall of humanity points to a new rise, the third day is still before us, and when it is fully fulfilled, the whole world will tremble. The signal has already been given, the empty tomb. The next step, the return of He who is the eternal temple. But there's another, even more enigmatic detail, a river flowing from the temple itself. A river that, according to the prophets, would bring life where there was only death. You have to see it. Ezekiel saw waters flowing from the temple. At first, they were small streams. Then they became a deep river, impossible to cross. Wherever this river flowed, life sprang up. Fruit trees grew on its banks, leaves that brought healing, and even the Dead Sea gained fish. Ezekiel 47:1-12. This wasn't just a vision of nature. It was the announcement of a power that resurrects what once seemed lost. When Yeshua was in the temple, he cried out, "Whoever believes in me, out of his heart will flow rivers of living water." John 7:38. He was connecting the Ezekiel code to the promise of the Spirit. The river is not just geographic, it is spiritual. It is the life of God, flowing from within his living temple. Where there is drought, he brings freshness. Where there is death, he brings rebirth. Today, we see the parallel before our eyes. The Dead Sea, a symbol of sterility, began to show signs of life. Fish were found in pools of fresh water around it. Coincidence, or a literal fulfillment of Ezekiel's vision in our time? When science is frightened by the inexplicable, prophecy smiles, because it was already written. This river is more than water. It's a sign, a code that shows that the living temple is already active. Yeshua's life flows into the dead world, bringing signs that the final restoration is near. And each one who believes becomes part of this river. The flow began in the temple in heaven and is now flowing through the earth. The end is approaching, but along with it, a life that does not die. What if I told you that this river is only half the mystery? Because Ezekiel didn't just see water, he saw locked gates, gates that remain sealed in Jerusalem to this day. In the next step, we'll pass through those gates. Ezekiel saw something strange. A gate on the east side of the temple was closed. The angel explained, "This gate will remain shut. No one will open it, because the Lord, the God of Israel, has entered through it. Therefore it will remain shut." Ezekiel 44:2. A seemingly simple detail, but loaded with a hidden code. This gate still stands today. It's called the Golden Gate or Eastern Gate in Jerusalem. It's been walled, sealed with stones since the Middle Ages. No king, no empire, no war has dared to open it. Even those who tried retreated before inexplicable forces. The gate remains there, silent, awaiting the fulfillment of something greater. Jewish tradition holds that the Messiah will enter through this gate. Ezekiel's prophecy links the closed gate to the return of God's glory. And Yeshua, when he entered Jerusalem triumphantly, chose precisely this side, the east. He had already marked the way, and when he returns, it will be through there that he will be recognized as the king. It's not just stone and mortar, it's an eternal sign, a prophetic seal etched into the landscape of Jerusalem. And every time someone looks at that locked gate without realizing it, they are standing before a spiritual clock, a reminder that history is not yet over, and that the door to eternity is about to open. But what if I told you that the greatest mystery lies not in the stone gate, but in the gate of the human heart? In the next code, we'll reveal how the heavenly temple doesn't depend on walls, but on something much closer to home. The prophet Ezekiel described measurements, chambers, and gates. But Yeshua gave the key that changed everything. Destroy this temple, and in 3 days I will raise it up. They thought he was talking about the building, but he was talking about something greater. The temple would no longer be made of stone, but of flesh and blood. God's dwelling place would not be limited to physical Jerusalem, but would be implanted within the human heart. This was a shock to the priests. Paul, years later, revealed this same truth clearly. Do you not know that you are the temple of the Holy Spirit? 1 Corinthians 3:16. In other words, each life becomes a microcosm of the Holy of Holies. Each breath is like incense rising. Each heartbeat echoes like an invisible shofar. The temple has not disappeared, it has been internalized, and now each person carries within themselves a piece of eternity. This code changes everything, because there's no point in Jerusalem being surrounded by holy walls if the heart is desecrated. The true battlefield is not at the stone gates, but at the doors of the mind and soul. Whoever opens their inner self to the Eternal One opens a living temple that no war can destroy. This is the invisible war, building or tearing down the sanctuary within oneself. And here lies the most distressing revelation. Many today live like abandoned temples, cracks of sin, altars of pride, pillars of idolatry. But Yeshua never abandoned any temple. He tears down, cleans, and rebuilds. That's why the question is urgent. Have you surrendered your temple to be rebuilt by the Messiah? If not, now is the time to open the gates of your soul. The code goes even deeper, because if the true temple is within us, how can we discern the sign of its final rebuilding? Subscribe to the channel now and stay with me. In the next code, we will expose the secret that connects the heavenly temple to the return of the Messiah. When the prophets spoke of the temple, they weren't just referring to bricks or measurements. There was a mystery hidden within a single stone. Psalm 118 already announced, "The stone the builders rejected has become the cornerstone." For Israel's leaders, it was an incomprehensible metaphor. For Yeshua, it was the ultimate revelation. He himself was the rejected stone. He didn't fit into political plans. He didn't serve religious interests. Yet he was precisely the foundation upon which the invisible temple would be built. In the ancient world, the cornerstone was the most important piece. It defined the alignment of the entire edifice. If rejected, the construction collapsed. If accepted, it supported everything. The code is clear. On what foundation is the history of humanity being built? Bricks of pride, empires of sand, or on the eternal rock, the Messiah? Every choice, every nation, every person is aligned before this stone. And it's no coincidence that the nations of 2024-2025 are more divided than ever. Without a solid foundation, everything cracks. Wars break out, alliances break, empires fall. The Cornerstone Code isn't just biblical poetry, it's a geopolitical warning. The world is trying to build a new tower like Babel without acknowledging the stone that supports it. And the result will be the same: fall. But here's the hope. Those who anchor themselves to the rock will never be shaken. This is the secret of spiritual resilience. When systems fall, when physical temples are destroyed, those who stand on the Messiah remain standing. Therefore, the decision is now. Either you build on him or watch your house crumble. And it is not yet the end. Because if the stone was rejected, there is another code, that of the glory that descends from on high. We will reveal how the presence of the Eternal will return to the temple not made by human hands. On what foundation is humanity being built? Bricks of pride, empires of sand, or on the eternal rock, the Messiah? Every choice, every nation, every man is being aligned before this stone. And it's no coincidence that the nations of 2024-2025 are more divided than ever. Without a solid foundation, everything cracks. Wars break out, alliances break, empires fall. The Cornerstone Code isn't just biblical poetry, it's a geopolitical warning. The world is trying to build a new tower like Babel without acknowledging the stone that supports it, and the result will be the same: fall. But here's the hope. Those who anchor themselves to the rock will never be shaken. This is the secret of spiritual resilience. When systems fall, when physical temples are destroyed, those who stand on the Messiah remain standing. Therefore, the decision is now: either you build on him or watch your house crumble. And it's not the end yet. Because if the stone was rejected, there is another code, that of the glory that comes down from on high. Sign up now and stay with me. In the next code, we will reveal how the presence of the Eternal will return to the temple not made by human hands. When Ezekiel was taken in vision to the temple, he didn't just see walls or measurements. He saw something that shook his soul, the glory of the Eternal returning through the eastern gate. The same glory that had abandoned Jerusalem in the days of idolatry now returned with fire and light. Imagine the prophet's silence, seeing the radiance that once filled the tabernacle of Moses and the temple of Solomon return as an army of light. It was confirmation that God's presence was not lost forever. This code reveals something profound. Glory has never been imprisoned by buildings. When the nation fell, glory left. When the temple was destroyed, glory remained untouched. But Ezekiel reveals a secret. The return of glory does not depend on men. It descends from on high, sovereign, irresistible, triumphant. It is a reminder that earthly kingdoms may fall, but the eternal kingdom always finds a way to shine. Now, look to 2024-2025. As wars rock the Middle East, many speak of reconstruction, of new temples, of technology that promises a digital paradise. But no human code can manufacture the return of the divine presence. The Eternal One does not need human permission. When the time comes, glory will come, not as smoke from sacrifices, but as fire that no one can quench. The mystery is this: the glory Ezekiel saw has a messianic reflection. Yeshua himself said, "They will see the Son of Man coming on the clouds with power and great glory." It's the same code revealed in two visions. The temple he will fill will not be made of dead stones, but of living stones, us. The return of glory is not just future. It has already begun in those who receive him. And if glory is already returning, there is an even bolder next code, the seal that can be broken. And that will forever change the prophetic timeline. The prophet Daniel received visions that left him breathless. He saw wars, empires, and kings falling like chess pieces. But when he sought answers, he heard the strangest command: seal the book until the time of the end. It wasn't denial, it was strategy. Heaven decreed that certain revelations could only be opened when humanity reached a critical point in history. This seal was more than ink. It was a spiritual blockade. The code is clear. There are truths that could only be revealed in a world like ours, connected, fast-paced, obsessed with technology. Daniel described a time when knowledge would multiply and men would rush from one place to another. We are living it. Airplanes, the internet, artificial intelligence. The prophecy doesn't speak of the slow pace of antiquity. It speaks of the electric rush of today. This seal is like a red line on the map of time. For centuries, no one was able to fully decipher the codes, but today, ancient symbols shine anew as if they were written for this very moment. It's as if the seal is being broken before our eyes. Every crisis, every advancement, every global decline, everything fits together like gears that turn faster every year. The mystery isn't just when the seal will be broken. The mystery is who will have eyes to see when it finally opens. Many will live as if nothing were happening. But those who discern the signs will know that the prophetic clock has shifted gears. Daniel was commanded to wait. We can wait no longer. The seal is cracking. And when the seal is completely opened, the final revelation emerges, the final code, which connects all the prophecies to one point: the return of the King. All prophecies seem like fragments of a puzzle. Every code revealed, every vision recorded, every word sealed. Isaiah saw, Daniel sealed. John wept because no one could open the book. But then the Lamb appeared, worthy to break the seals. The riddle always pointed to him, not to kings, not to empires, but to the Messiah, the one who rules over time. The line is clear. History is not repeating itself by chance. It is closing in on itself in a cycle. The beginning meets the end. Babel rises again. Sodom manifests itself digitally. Nations churn like violent seas. Everything converges. These are not loose pieces. They are signs pointing to the same center, and that center is the return of the King. This return is not symbolic. It is real. He will come like lightning, splitting the sky from east to west. He will come when the codes are complete, when the seal can no longer hold the truth. This is not the domesticated Christ of religion. He is the warrior, the judge, the Messiah who returns to claim the throne and separate light from darkness. And here's the final shock. There's no time to waste. The gears are already in motion. The seals are breaking. The final code is before us. He who has ears, let him hear. He who has eyes, let him see. For the King is at the door. Subscribe to the channel now, because in the next episode we'll reveal how blood moons and solar eclipses were already foretold by Jesus, and why these signs can no longer be ignored.